You are now tuned into Relations. Hello, humans of the world. You are now tuned into Relayshons Podcast, where me and a new co-host just like you discuss our relations with ourselves, with each other, and our experiences. Are we ready to break the cycles? You know, the ones that live within our learned behaviors. Have you noticed the decisions you make subconsciously? The ones that lead you right back to where you started? Let's take on the healing journey together. Get on this PJ of unconventional conversations and let's travel all the way through our lineage. Then let's break the cycles link by link. Ready? Let's do this. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Relations. Hello, humans of the world. We're back for another amazing episode. I'm so glad that you guys have been supporting me and listening in season 3. I really, really, really appreciate you. So let's get right into it. This episode is titled, I Am the Hardest MF, okay? And the premise of today's topic is the way we protect our pain with silence. So first, before we get into it, I want to introduce you to my VIP guest. Y'all know that's the best part. I want you guys to meet Rube. Should I call you Rube? Ruben? Like, what can I like?
Please call me Rube. Don't call me Ruben.
Oh, okay, cool. So Rube is an amazing person. He's one of the most educated and like logically connected people I think known in my lifetime thus far. So I can't wait for him to share his wealth of knowledge, his wealth of perspective and experience with all of you.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into it, Rube, like, can you tell them a little bit of how we met?
We go back now damn near 20 years. I met you while you were in high school. I was the director of programs of a youth program. Shout out to Urban Dove. You would come around. You were best friends with two of my elite staff members, Rasheem and Drew.
Yep.
Ed used to go to high school with you for a little bit, but Ed has a story.
And Ed too. He actually just hit me up this weekend. He's like, well, we gonna hang out. You still be scary about COVID? I was like, nah, bro, let's hang out. So we're about to hang out next weekend.
When you talk to him, tell him to hit me up. I haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah, I will.
So you would come around with them. You never joined the program, but oddly, though you didn't, your sister did. So
Word.
JoJo wound up becoming part of the family. JoJo was with me my last 2 years there. Beyond that, you were always around. Your brother even went to camp with us at one point, so I got to know your family. I was at your graduation. I saw young adult Melissa because I was a party promoter at the time, and when y'all became of age, I used to come to my bars and my parties and hang out.
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember that?
I remember that.
I've known you for a long time, and over the years, I know you have traveled and we stayed connected through social media, and I've hit you up a few times when I had some questions when I was out on the West Coast. You've always been available to me. So yeah, your family. That's all it is. So there's really no introduction. You're just part of the family.
That's facts. That's facts. Gosh, you brought me down through memory lane saying all that. I'm like, damn, some of that I forgot, but we've lived. I'm so grateful for that.
Ali, I remember all those stories. I remember anything. You can reference anything.
Really?
Yeah, I have to because I'm always kind of not necessarily tested, but I know my position in people's lives. If I at any point kind of made it seem like I didn't remember who they were or I didn't remember a moment, it would be devastating. And not only for them, it means a lot to me. So yeah, I definitely try to stay current with as much of that stuff as possible. It's never me really digging deep into my recall to remember those times.
I appreciate that because my memory these days, I don't even know where it's at. So, so thank you for remembering that and taking down through memory lane. That's super dope. Yeah, you're right. We are family, and I'm so excited for you to have this conversation with me. So let's get.
And I've been watching you over the last 3 years, probably more than 3 years, during your journey with your podcast. I watch how much better you've gotten. I watch how deep you've gotten, and I'm like, when there was something upon this subject matter, I couldn't think of anywhere else that I wanted to cover it with.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for like supporting me. I really appreciate it. Yes, so let's do this. Let's get into it. So I want to start off with basically defining the two words that we'll be using so that we could be on the same page. And right now, or the season, I am doing it according to Webster's Dictionary from 1828, because I think that the definitions from that time was a lot more clear and direct. So the first word I'm going to start with is vulnerability. Mm-hmm. Vulnerability is the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. Oof. So no wonder nobody wants to be vulnerable, because this definition right here will make you run the other way. So, eek. Okay. So, and then the second word is protect, to cover or shield from danger or injury, to defend, to guard, to preserve in safety. So some habits were created centuries ago, and we continue to perpetuate them in our lives out of learned behavior or shame. Sweeping the pain and trauma of our experiences under the rug is popular. It's not cool or attractive nor fun to speak up when life gets heavy. But why do we protect our pain with silence? How can the hardest MF in the room be powerful in his or her vulnerability? Let's talk about it. So, Rube, how do you feel when you are vulnerable?
I feel like all of a sudden somebody can take advantage of me. That they have seen a weakness, an opportunity where if there was ever a time where they can get a win over me, this is the moment that they can take advantage of it.
That's deep. And given the description and like the definition and then how you're saying it, it's aligned, right? No wonder. For me, when I think about vulnerability or when I feel vulnerable, I feel like this might come back to me if I express it, and somebody's going to use it against me at some point. So I need to almost protect it.
Right.
Because how people, especially people that AKA know you well, like family, close friends, they almost try to use some things that your weakest point to throw back at you, especially when you're a strong person, because it's like, oh, like what I have in my back pocket to like at you whenever they get upset at you. So whenever I feel vulnerable, I feel like I need to go into protection mode.
For me, I talk a lot of shit. I try to bring light to things that I just think has gone on too far without being addressed. I try to challenge things that I just know that are wrong. I don't mind speaking up and making people uncomfortable. So when you're that type of person, when you don't mind kind of leading from up front and challenging the status quo, it makes people like, all right, cool. Especially when they know they can't win. And I have a big personality, so I can squash a lot of weak shit around me. But when there's a hole, people are looking for that opportunity to say, see, I told you. See, look, he's not what he is. He's not as strong as people think he is. So it's an opportunity to kind of, cut you down.
That's facts. So how is being like the hardest, quote unquote, impacted or is impacting or has impacted you? Like mentally, emotionally, financially?
I think for one, it puts that pressure on me to kind of always present that I'm on top of everything. Like, I never wanted to get caught slipping. So when you kind of establish that and I use a term called the evils. I stole it from the Jay-Z song, the evils, D acronym EVIL. I'm talking about spelling on the podcast.
Yeah, no, it's right.
But the evils are out there. There are forces out there that just can't wait to kind of catch you, especially when your whole motive is something positive, when everything you're trying to do is uplifting and the betterment of other people. So for me, I'm always aware that if I get caught slipping, those evils are waiting to kind of pounce on me and take advantage of it. So for me, it's the constant pressure of, all right, I can't get caught slipping. I can't make the mistake, because right there with that crack, somebody will try to expand on it and just throw off the whole structure that I built. So for me, it's always kind of a pressure to stay on top of it because I don't want to show any weakness in whatever I'm trying to present.
Mm, mm. I so when I think about being the hardest, I've come to realize like I didn't give myself that title. Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like other people projected this idea of me being quote unquote hard or strong on
Mm-hmm.
me, and then I felt like I had to fall into place of that. So for instance, like I don't know if you got siblings, but I'm the oldest of all of my siblings, right?
Five
And
brothers.
five brothers. There you go. So I'm the oldest of three, and then I also am the oldest female out of 11 cousins, right? And so it was always like, well, you need to be the responsible one. Like they're looking at you. You're like you have to be the together one, and I feel like it's assigned to me. So I almost kind of had to like fill in the shoes that were given to me rather than like me build that shoe, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. So I wonder
Absolutely.
if that narrative wasn't projected on me, like would I still be me? Right? Would I still have this like, motivated? When I think about the hardest though, I don't think about like somebody who's like a quote unquote strong, but I think about somebody who's like motivated, who's on top of their stuff, who no matter what's happening, they stay in line and they keep moving forward. That to me is the hardest person in the room, right? Um,
Right.
so what do you like? What is your perspective on that?
For me, it starts with my aunts and uncles. I come from a very uh, academically inclined and athletic family. So when it came to schoolwork, the Yopes family did very well. When it came to sports, they did very well. My uncles, my father were all good looking men. So socially, they did very well. I'm not shitting on my aunts at all, but you get you modeling after the men in your life.
Right.
And then my pops, he kind of always put on me to like, yo, you got to be able to take care of everybody. You always got to be able to take care of everybody. So it just kind of stuck in my head. And then when I realized my own aptitude compared to people around me, it was never something that I wanted to use to kind of separate myself from other people. I felt like, all right, cool, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. Why can't I like help other people around me and be just as good? Because I didn't want to use certain abilities that I had to want. I didn't want those things to kind of distance me from other people. So
Mm.
I'm like, all right, if I can reach back and pull them up and keep them with me, then I would always have people in my lives as opposed to having certain strengths be the reason why I'm separated from people. So if you were blessed with it, use it to kind of take advantage of those, not take advantage to support and take care of those around you.
So perfect segue. Like I know it's difficult for the supporter to ask for support. Since you've been like the supporter of everyone in your life, how do
Mm-hmm.
you keep some type of like grounding support for yourself?
Is difficult. is always it always has been, and in my evolution as I've gotten older, I'm 43 now. Let's make sure that's on the record. It's gotten better because you wind up coming into contact with people who have the same abilities that you have. So and they're raw too. So when you come across somebody who like, yo, bro, cut the shit and like let me in, to see that it kind of allows me to kind of put the shield down a little bit and let somebody else carry the weight for a little bit.
Is it
But for me,
usually for a woman or like in general?
in my life, normally it has been some of my women, female friends of mine's. Uh, Occasionally, it's some of the brothers. That came into place more as we've gotten older because I think we can't just kind of eliminate the animalistic instincts that we all have. And as younger men, we all scrapping for our place. We all battling. So you're not gonna open up and kind of share space with other men. As we get older and you establish yourself with your brothers, especially those of your same age, you realize we're not fighting for the kingdom anymore. And we would rather kind of build each other up, especially when we realize why are we fighting against each other when there's so many energy out there, so much energy out there fighting against us, especially amongst brothers, my Puerto Rican and black brothers. We're not gonna fight amongst each other anymore. So
Mhm.
we talk to each other all the time and make sure that we hold each other accountable, especially when you're like, all right, the silly shit that we did 35 and under, it's not cool anymore because we
Yep.
see the damage that it did. So we kind of make sure we keep each other in line. But yeah, it wasn't easy because the imagery, you just want to make sure that you're kind of solidified in terms of that person. But at the same time, it's kind of hard because you kind of look at people like, shit, how can you help me when I'm always helping you? And
Mm.
at the same time, in those relationships, there's not an initiative taken a lot of times to want to support me because people benefited from that imbalance. That like, yo, Rube, your function is to hear my shit. I really don't do it the other way. And
Right.
this
I don't know
works.
how to. Yeah.
Yeah, this works for us, so let's keep it that way. But at the same time, they're not even aware of some of the things that you may be going through because you don't present it in a way where they can even receive it.
Right. So it's actually in both ways, right? It takes
Mm-hmm.
both people to decide when to shift one role to another. And we have, in a way, as the supporting act, to be
Right,
able to step back and just say, actually, no, I'm going to let you take lead. And that
right.
can be very, because I've been practicing that a lot lately. And what I realize is that people get used to you playing your role, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
you step back, it's like, oh, what's wrong with you, right? Like, what do you mean? Wait, you want me to pick up the baton and keep running? Like, what?
Right.
What do you want? What do you want me to do? And I'm just like, listen, I can't direct you right now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I am sitting here and I'm not. You are you mad? Are you sad? I'm like, no, I'm just silent. I'm sitting. Like, I'm just calm. But it's people are get used to you being the person in the room directing.
Right.
You stop directing. How does the movie keep going?
But I even call myself on my own bullshit because even when I'm letting go of control, I'm in control of letting that go. So, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I share with you, I've been in therapy myself now for 3 years. And
Amazing.
even with my therapist, I have to remind her, like, yo, you need to lead this. Because given the opportunity, I'll run this session. And quite honestly, I still do, but we have learned kind of our rhythm and how she can just set me up. And I'm trying to avoid that happening in this podcast right now because I can just go.
No, please, please.
Um, I'm like, her name is Fanagy. I'm like, I'll open it up, go down the path. I'll normally come into the session with my own plan. And then I'm like, all right, let me back out and let me do what I have you here for. Because if I'm in therapy still trying to control that, what's the point of therapy? The whole point of it
Right.
is to kind of sit back, have a sounding board, and let somebody else have control of that. I'll have to fly.
Right.
It's bothering me. Yeah, but I know that even when I defer control, I'm still controlling because I'm only choosing to defer it.
That's accountability right there. So
Absolutely.
I also have therapy issues. This is like kind of sidetrack, but it's cool. I have therapy issues because I know how I like to how I open up and how I communicate and how I heal, right? So usually I come into a therapy session also with an idea of how I want it to go, but I want them to lead, right? So they're like, "Oh yeah, why don't you just do that?" I was like, "No, that's not what I need. I need you to direct me into unpacking why I feel this way." Right? Like they're like, "But I mean, what do you need?" I'm like, "I don't know. You're the therapist. I'm paying you. You tell me."
Right.
So I take that also like knowing yourself, right? You know yourself. You know yourself better than anybody knows you. So of course you're gonna step into a situation, not controlling, but rather like setting the
Mhm.
expectations of who you are and how you heal. So that
Mhm.
you can take lead from that, right? I think that
Right.
that's true.
Where I think I've gotten good with it is even though I'm controlling, I try to make sure that I'm not controlling to the point where I'm avoiding going places that I know we need to go.
Mm,
Because by maintaining control, you can easily avoid things that you don't want to touch on. And
mm,
I'm like, if I'm gonna control, I'm gonna lead us to go somewhere that it may take you a while to get there. And I'm like, nah, let's just do it. So this was on my mind. This is gonna be our subject matter of the day. You're the professional here. Jump in and push me. Because if
right.
you allow me to lead, then I'm going to think therapy or any kind of healing conversation is productive just because we wound up doing what I wanted to do, not necessarily touching on what I needed to touch on. So, there's a stigma about being a control freak, but if you know how to use it properly, it's cool as long as you're honest with yourself and be able to say, like, all right, cool, I am a control freak. I like to be in charge. So how can I benefit from that? As opposed to trying to stifle it, I'm going to lead this to a place where I'm going to get what I need out of it. And I'm going to
get my money's worth
to take the lead. And think about how we set this up. Where I came seeking you to say, hey, I want you to do this. I want you to set this up. Like, let's do it pre-interview, things like that. I want you to kind of set the parameters for this to make sure you get the best out of me.
Right. So you understand yourself. And I think that that's also like a masculine energy thing. Like that's a trait that I see a lot in men. Is that, you guys are very strategic and like practical people. So you are species. So you always lead with like, this is how I want it to go. And it could come off manipulating, right? But
exactly.
Really, it could come off very manipulating and very gaslighting, right? All of the words. But in reality, it's just you guys are very practical and just very direct, and you just want to go the way you want it to go. And it takes another person, whoever it is, male or female, to be able to be like, nah, like we're not doing that. Or for you knowing yourself to know how far you want to take it, right? So how, like, what is your confident, like, what is your grounding support? Like, what do you use, since you're not being vulnerable, like, often with people, you're not asking for help. What's your, like, where do you go to get grounded?
I'm real secure in what I'm not good at. So, I can self-humble myself real quick. So, in terms of getting support, when I know I'm not good at something, it's reaching out to somebody who does it better than me. It's also what I consider one of my flaws, because if I'm not good at something, I'm like, cool, I'm great in other areas, so I don't need to do that. I just need to know somebody else who's pretty good at it, and then I can go to them and ask them for help. And I feel like I have credit because these are normally people within my circle. So me going to that person and saying I need help isn't necessarily me being vulnerable. And it's not even a mix for me to try to cover insecurities. It's a way of me tricking myself to say, yo, it's okay to ask somebody else who's better at this than you are, because there's no imbalance of like, damn, here's somebody else asking me to do something and I really don't want to do it. Whereas if it's coming from me, it's like, yeah, what's wrong? Of course. This man has been here for me when I needed him. I have no problem giving back at a time where he may need something. So I use that to say, like, all right, like, again, I'm not good at social media marketing. I see some of the things that you do. So I feel quite comfortable saying, you know what, I'm going to hit Melissa up and ask her, hey, can you help me? And the funny thing is, you do realize that people are super willing to help you out if you ask them. That's one good thing about humanity. You'll be surprised how willing people are to help you out if you just kind of open your mouth and let them know you need support.
And people want to. We're almost want. It's like in our nature to want to like support each other. We just have this like weird feeling about doing it, but it's true. This is what we're here to do. So for me, my confidant or like my grounding support was my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I kind of almost crippled a lot of my relationships, I realized, because I was so comfortable only being the person that people come to because I had my person. Mm-hmm. So okay, like, yeah, I don't mind if everybody just comes to me and asks, because I know who I need to go and ask, right? I know who I need to go and vent to. I know I have my person. So when she passed away 3 years ago, it has been really new for me to ask for help outside of that, right? Because now I have to find new people and new things. And like, I'm doing your tactic too. Like, okay, who do I know is really good at this? Like, who I know is like, has this stuff together. Because I know some people equate like, oh, well, I'm your friend, so you should ask me. And I'm like, yeah, you're my friend and I can ask you. But if you're my friend and I can ask you about something that you're not really good at, or you're not what I would perceive to be like someone who could guide me in this direction, then I'm not going to go to you. It doesn't mean I'm not being vulnerable with you. I'm just, this particular thing is not what I'm going to go to you for. So what would be for you? Like, who do you go to?
I don't have anybody. And that's a flaw because that's something that I've established. I don't have anybody because that's way of me coping with avoiding disappointment. Just to like, all right, because if you put somebody in that position and then when you ask them if they don't come through, now you're disappointed, especially when you're somebody it's very difficult for you to ask for help. Now, the truth of the matter is, though I don't have anyone established in that position, I know there are dozens of people who exist who will do that. And there has been times where I've needed assistance recently. And it was just a matter of, yo, this is what's going on. And it was like, hell yeah, Rube, I got you. But as far as a consistent, I know this person has my back, I don't have that. It's a flaw. It's something that is missing for me, has always been missing because that person has never existed. And I wish it was different, but that's one of those things that I have to get over as opposed to figuring still being the hardest motherfucker in the room. I don't need that, where I definitely know to have that grounding presence would make things a lot easier for me.
Well, I mean, recognizing it, right? Like, and I don't know if it's worse like having it and then losing it because now you know what it is to like not have it, or is it like never having it and you being able to deal with it on your own? Which bravo to you for making it to this point without that person. Because my mom was my sanity, and I was able to like not care about anybody else's anything, like nobody else's opinion, nobody else's like thoughts really matter because I have my person. So I'm like, whatever, that's that, F this person, whatever. Right. And now it's like, damn, now I got to think about that twice, right? So,
but it's important to know, and I want to make it clear. Though you ask me who is that person, the answer is I don't have it. Are there people out there? Absolutely. There is no doubt about that. You know, I tell people that I suffer from loneliness, and it blows people's mind. Like, Rube, you're so social. You know, you got a lot of people out there who got a lot of love for you. Like, nah, I suffer from stifling, crippling loneliness. However, I can walk out of my door and I get all this love because of how people view me and the person that I am. So I know if I need it, it's absolutely there. There are people who would rip down a wall for me if I needed them to. But I don't allow that. I haven't established that singular person because for me, to have it and then when I need it, for that person not to come through, that would be just as crushing as being lonely. So to avoid it, I'm like, I'm never going to put someone on that pedestal because I don't want to set myself up for the disappointment.
That's real. So the whole loneliness part, because do you think that has to come with self? Because I know with me, whenever I feel, and I have moments like that where I feel like this really deep loneliness, and it doesn't matter if you're around 100 people, right? Like that loneliness thing kind of just comes from within. And I know whenever that's happening with me, it's like something is not right with my spirit. Like there's something I need to do within myself to clear that. Like, have you thought about that for yourself?
What's wild is, so I suffer from loneliness, but I like being alone. Like,
right, that's me.
Yeah, I like living alone. I like my own house. I love having company. I love opening my house to people, but I know they're guests. I know they're leaving because when I want mine, I want to just be me. And I don't like to have to make that choice of when I'm at rest, am I still the supporter? So I do like being alone. What was your question again? Let me make sure I answer it correctly.
I just want to know, like, if you know that loneliness is there and it's from within, like, how do you deal with it? Like, how do you search within yourself to cope with it?
So first thing, I understand that I'm actually comfortable with it, but in terms of dealing with it, it's something that I'm still figuring out. One of the things we talked about, those who know me, my dog recently died. I didn't know what my dog meant to me in terms of grounding me and kind of keeping me from feeling lonely until he was no longer there. and I wound up still doing the routines of me and stuck waking up in the morning, and I'm reaching to an animal that's not there anymore. So in terms of like, how do I deal with it? I deal with it. I used to deal with it in a very unhealthy way, where I was just wild, crazy,
Numbing.
promiscuous.
Yeah, numbing.
Keeping myself occupied when I wanted to be occupied, and then ejecting people when I didn't want them there anymore.
Mm.
Um, it worked, but I knew exactly what it was doing. It wasn't fixing the problem. What is it? Was that treating
Suppressing.
a what is it? Treating the symptom, not the disease.
Mm.
That was something I did, and to a point I still do. Maybe not in the same way, running around in the streets trying to meet different people all the time, but I cover it up in different ways. Normally just by staying busy and
Right.
working, as
Distractions. Yeah.
opposed to kind of like I really need to deal with this issue of why do I keep to myself, but at the same time get upset when I'm by myself when I want that connection.
Mm. And just so you know, Rube, like that's 99% of freaking humans. So, we were taught, and I believe that we were taught to distract, right?
Mhm.
We aren't taught to tap into our own powers and our own healing because we have it within us, and so if we stay distracted, it stay dormant. And who benefits from that? The one percenters benefit from that. So we
Right.
have to keep you distracted with all of the things that cost a lot of money and all of the things outside of us, so that we can keep the economy working. So I think that's part of the system. That's systematic, really.
Yeah, but also all of it is energy, and I will say it's not just kind of negative things. It's also why I've been successful in certain areas. So when I feel that energy, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go do something. So I thought about it. I try to do a lot of lecturing. I do a lot of workshops. So it'll be at that moment that I'm thinking of something. Like currently, right now, I'm a professor because I'm like, I'm gonna take that energy and I'm gonna figure out exactly how I'm gonna become a college professor. Not as it was never a goal of mine, but I just like, I can occupy my time by taking on this challenge. Podcasting. It's a good way for me to take the energy that's built up and burn it off. A lot of things that I do, I just kind of try to take the negative energy and turn it into something that's going to be productive. So it's another reason why I don't necessarily run from it. I can use it somehow to be beneficial. Because one thing I tell this to my therapist, I don't need to be fixed. I'm cool with who I am. I think the goal to try to not have any problems or any flaws is dumb. I'm unique. This is who I am. So
Fact.
as long as I know how to use it and I'm aware of it, I will be fine. I don't think that everyone that uses cocaine has a drug problem. That just may be what they do to get by.
Mm.
Everything that we do that's necessarily bad isn't the worst thing in the world. It's just kind of what we need to do to get from point A to B. I don't need to be fixed. More than anything, I just rather be understood, not only by you, but by myself.
That's deep. That's deep. Damn. Not everybody that uses cocaine is a coke addict. Like,
It's like, all right, people do shit. Like I
yeah,
do things that are not that good. It
yeah,
doesn't mean that I'm not a good person, and
right.
I'm
It
not
doesn't. That's
ashamed
true.
of those things. And I wear those up front because I'm a whole person. Like I get a lot of shine, a lot of accolades, but I'm not going to reveal some of this stuff on the podcast. But especially the youngest that know there was a ceremony that we used to do when they turned 18 for
Yep.
me to show them, like, yo, there's another side of who I am. I'm a whole person. When I don't think you even 21, and you were coming into some of the clubs and the parties that I was throwing, and you
That's
saw a side of me that your younger sister never saw. And it's okay. And it's that balance of who I am.
right. And we all
I
have it.
have, yeah, I have no representative. There is no facade. I'm not trying to keep up to an image or nothing like that. there's no work rube and then home rube and family rube and friend rube and boyfriend. I am the same person all the time, benefits, flaws, and all.
That's a blessing because a lot of people can't say that. I think that's a good attribute I have as well. I think everybody would say the same thing about me. So I think that's commendable. So keep doing you no matter what. So how can we go about communicating what we need when obviously it's not visible? So more like the mental things, like the things that people can't see.
For me, I've gotten to the point where I just have to say it. Not necessarily just kind of show it, but kind of sit somebody down and say, yo, this is exactly what I need. And, I tell people being hard and suppressing everything and not letting people in, but I got easy for me. It's easy being hard. When I got older, I'm like, I need to challenge myself because I'm doing the same shit that I used to do when I was younger. Me opening up, telling somebody what I need, being vulnerable became the new challenge, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the challenge of, like, yo, you tell me that I don't say anything, so I'm going to sit you down and let you know. When my dog died, I had to let people know, like, yo, you know what I need right now because Stuck isn't here? I need you to be present. I need the phone calls. I need the texts. I need the FaceTimes. Because, yo, it means something right now for me to know that, shit, I'm not alone right now, that you genuinely give a fuck. But you're not going to know that, especially kind of based on how a lot of my relationships are unbalanced, unless I say something. And it was easy for me to do, but the challenge was getting to the point where I'm like, yo, I don't care about the old imbalance of Ruben's always cool. I can't let you know that I'm weak. I'm like, I'm way past that. Yo, I am weak right now. Like, yo, and I need you to be here right now. And what was dope, like, I'm in Florida right now. People flew down here to check on me to make sure that I was all right. And I'm like, yo, everybody come. Please do. It's things like that where, like, it lets somebody know who's always taking care of somebody else that, like, yo, we got you too. And some of the phone calls, some of the texts, some of the messages that I've gotten, it's kind of changed my whole perspective on making sure people know that I need help in those moments that I need help. Beyond those who I've kind of said, all right, they've shown that they're just as strong as me, so I'm willing to do that, or they'll grab me by the neck and say, Ruben, I got you. It's everybody, those who do care about me. I've learned that I have to allow people to show what they want to show. So I'm cool with that. And that's going to be the new me going forward.
I like it. I like this new you. This is dope. So for anybody out there, they're not sure how to start, here are 7 ways to help you become your own best advocate. Number 1, share your story. Many people regret that when they needed support, friends and family just weren't there. But the question is, did they know you needed support? If they don't know, they can't help you. So just share your story and you'd be surprised at who would offer to be there for you. 2, say yes when help is offered. So that's a big one. That's like mine. I made that one. 3, ask for company. 4, be honest about what you do and don't need. Number 5, instead of seeking help, seek lessons. It's better to ask people to teach you how to do something than ask them to do it for you. That's deep. 6, don't forget to set boundaries. Yeah, I know that's my favorite one. And 7, ask others what they think you need. If you really are blocked and don't have a clue what you need, but you know you need something or someone to help, confide in a trusted friend for input. You might ask a friend, what do you see me doing? What do you think my strengths are? And I want to reinvent myself, but imagine myself out of the cycle. What do you think? That was big because sometimes you can't really see yourself outside of yourself. So it's really good to like ask people around you what they see that you are unable to see.
Yeah, I got one for you.
Tell me what.
A challenge. This was about 7-8 years ago. One of my best friends, Mo. Shout out to Mo. She'll probably actually listen to this.
Shout out, Mo.
I've told this story thousands of times. I was going through a rough patch in my life, and we used to all hang out together. And I knew I wasn't presenting well. I knew just my attitude was off. I was angry all the time. I was just wasn't fun to be around, right? And my friend, again, and this is a strong person. This is somebody who's about her business. Hit me up. She lived in Jersey. She actually lives in the house that I actually live in now. And like, yo, you need to come to the crib for the weekend. I want you to come stay over for the weekend. Like, all right, cool. Again, I love that. When somebody grabs me by the neck and say, yo, you're not looking right. This is what I need you to do. Because for me, I was never going to say anything.
Right.
And we sat in the living room. And again, I use this in my lectures. Mo said, like, yo, let me share with you what it's like dealing with you. And it was one of the most powerful conversations that I've ever had. Whereas we have this perception, especially when you're real sure of yourself, you're real confident, that the world is functioning in the way that you're presenting based on how you're moving, what you're doing. And she just broke down that, like, yo, you're my boy. I love you. I love spending time with you. But there are times I hate hanging out with you. I'm like, damn, like, how dare you? I'm supposed to be that dude. Like, yo, when you out with a crew, everybody plays their position. My position is we all good. Nobody gonna mess with us. We covered. Fellas are cool. No one's gonna disrespect my homegirls. We're safe. And she had to break down, like, yo, sometimes we go out and I may want to, I may see a dude and I may make eye contact, but he can't come across the room to talk to me because of you. Because your presence is so big, both in stature and just the energy you give off. I don't like being around you at times because you can be stifling. Like, yo, turn it off sometimes. You need to chill. And that just led to a whole bigger conversation of what is it like dealing with me. And we can't learn that from ourselves. So when people are so confident, I know who I am, I know, you don't know shit. You know what you know. But we deal with a lot more people than we deal with ourselves. There's so much you can learn from asking people the question of, like, yo, how do I come across? And that's what I mean, kind of getting off that high horse, even though you're that strong motherfucker. And be like, yo, I can learn from other people telling me about myself, and I'm not losing my position. I'm not losing my strength. I'm not losing my confidence by gaining information from the world. So yeah, I challenge everybody with that. Those who are in your circle, those who are in your crew, ask them to honestly say, what is it like to be your friend? Surprised by some of the things that they'll tell you.
Yo, you know what? I'm gonna do this experiment this week. Whoever asking next, I'm gonna start asking questions. Maybe write a book about it. I would love to do a documentary and people's perspectives about me. So I literally think that this could be life changing.
And yeah, you got to be secure in your skin for that too.
Yes, word, of course. I mean, you have to be ready to hear it. You ask, you have to be ready to hear it.
You're gonna hear some things that you never expected. I was like, yo, I still love you. I still fuck with you. Like, yo, this is kind of difficult. So yeah, definitely interesting conversation to have to kind of get a better sense of exactly who you are.
Boom. That's a good one. So Rube and I are learning that we're the hardest MFers, so never vulnerable. That's not accurate. Attaching ourselves to shame and adhering to fictional understanding of strength is making us susceptible to increased anxiety, depression, symptoms of poor health, and even the more rapid progression of diseases. The shame and the innate need to protect our vulnerability is literally making us sick. Let's start healing with our vulnerability and start using our pain as power. So, Rube, thank you so much. This convo was so dope. You are dope. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts. Everybody take on that challenge and comment. I want to hear everybody's thoughts and perspective and what they friends talking about. So make sure you guys tune in. Thank you for listening. And make sure you stay for the after credits. Remember, that's the best part. Until later. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to subscribe and follow on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube at Relayshons Podcast via The Diary of MR. M as in Melissa, R as in Rosario. And now, the best part, here are the after credits, a message from my co-host.
Okay. I'm sorry, what am I supposed to do here? All right. So something for people to kind of take away. I'll share one of my things. I have gotten away from right and wrong. You know, I used to try to make sure that I was right. I would love arguing somebody down, blowing holes in somebody's argument to prove that I was right and they were wrong. I don't want to do that anymore. I stopped doing that a while ago because there's no need to win a debate when life isn't about right or wrong. I think it's important to understand that no matter what situation you're in, no matter what situation is going on in society that has some sense of conflict, there is some valid points on the other end. And if you're willing to hear the other side of it, hear some of the holes in your argument, in the end, you can come to some place of developing a gray area. And it's in that overlap, that's where I try to live. I try to no longer live from a dominant space, from a space where it's all about what I think and what I want to do. I'll concede a little bit to establish whatever gray that is, whether it's a dark gray or a light gray, but it's much easier to exist in a gray area as opposed to being right all the time. That's my message.